Alrighty, thank you very much for joining, either live or if you're watching this on replay. I really appreciate it. Today I want to talk with you about some of the reasons we are seeing more of our customers shift to a managed service desk. To start, my name is Marc Holdsworth. I am the Managed Services Practice Manager here at Accudata. I've been with Accudata for over 8 years, where I started as a consultant in our cloud and data center practice. I've been with our managed services group for 6 years now in both operations and solution architecture roles. For those of you who may not be familiar with Accudata, Accudata strengthens organizations by solving their toughest IT challenges with flexibility, a commitment to partnership, and guaranteed results. We are headquartered in Houston, Texas, with offices in Dallas, San Antonio, and Austin. And we have more than 180 employees, mostly based in Texas. And while we are Texas-based, we have a national and an international reach, especially when it comes to our service desk. For 9 consecutive years, we've been recognized as the Houston Business Journal's top computer network and systems integrator. And we've been ranked as one of the top cybersecurity firms by the Houston Business Journal for 4 years in a row now. But as I mentioned, today I want to talk with you about managed service desk. But before I do that, one of the things that I like to do before any type of speaking engagement is to find out who my audience is. So understanding who you are and what industry you are in can be helpful. But here's what I found when I started looking at the registrants for this event. So we have commercial real estate, construction, we have some finance, medical and pharmaceutical. Being in Houston, Houston-based, it's not surprised to see some oil and gas. And we also have shipping, logistics, and manufacturing. Now, surprisingly enough, do you know what I didn't see, at least at the last time that I checked? I didn't see anyone in the IT services industry. And more importantly, no one here appears to be in the service desk industry. So if you're not in the service desk industry, one question that is coming up more and more today is, why are we focusing on this? Now this triggers, a number of other questions. What should we be focusing on? Where can we provide the most utility to the business? Where should we be focusing our time, our energy, and our technology acumen? And correctly managing and maintaining a service desk requires the right people, a lot of time, effort, and financial resources. So here's where you could look to a service desk provider and their expertise. Now, why outsource your service desk? What are some of the main reasons to outsource or partner with an organization? And we see this really in three main areas. So the first is staffing. So whether this is short-term, during peaks and valleys of your business, during M&A activity, during crisis such as weather, large-scale power outages, and most recently the pandemic that we are all working through. This also includes long-term planning. Now this may be more around career path and long-term employee retention. Next is efficiency to the business. Now the business and your customers are expecting great service. And without it, not only you're not keeping good employees, both in IT and outside of IT, you're also increasing downtime and thus having a negative financial impact to your organization. And finally, we talk costs. So not just the impact of not being able to respond to the organization, but you have outages, especially longer outages and sustained issues throughout the environment. Those are key to increasing and driving costs. Staff is usually key here, but also when we look at tools, it takes a lot of tools to successfully deliver a world-class service desk experience to your customers. And these may be things such as ticketing solution, documentation management, asset management, patching, remote desktop shares, et cetera. There's a lot of things that go into delivering that service to your employees. But first, let's take a look at staffing. And so as we dig into staffing, as I mentioned, there's short-term and there's long-term needs. Now, on the short-term side, these can include, seasonal peaks and valleys in your business. Now, increases in business oftentimes result in an increase in the issues that you're seeing. And decreases in business can decrease the number of issues. So when you're building, budgeting, and staffing your service desk, do you build the team big enough to handle the increased workload, or do you staff for the decreased workload and struggle during those peaks? M&A activity can also present short-term staffing requirements. The goal of IT leadership is for IT to be seen as a true business peer, and nothing can undo that more than by stifling business growth. If IT is unable to take on a new acquisition or unable to ramp up a new division, this can oftentimes be a death sentence for IT in the organization. Business disruptors such as weather, large-scale power outages, disasters, and disease epidemics and pandemics, can cause, huge changes in your pricing structure, in your staff. Now in Houston, we are used to hurricanes and more recently flooding, so mass shifts in the way that we work is something that we've grown accustomed to. But other areas of the country deal with other weather phenomena that can disrupt business. And most recently, COVID-19 has shifted not only the way that we need to work, but also in the call volume and the types of calls that we're experiencing. And so when you look at your team and your staff, can you pivot quickly enough to handle the change in issues that you may see? Now, long-term staffing needs and issues present themselves in a few ways. Now, primarily, we want to provide a solid career path for our staff. Now, this will help you recruit and more importantly, help you keep good people. And to do that, you must have something to offer them to stay. The newer generation of worker is not just looking for a long-term stable job. They are looking for a place that they can continue to grow and stay engaged. So what training programs can you put in place to keep these great people with your organization? And if you struggle to keep people, that of course leads to turnover, and turnover can increase the cost of an employee position by upwards of 10% when you factor in things such as recruiting and training costs. And not only that, the soft cost to the organization, while others are taken away from their primary duty. And this all stresses the system and creates discord among the rest of the IT team. And this can lead ultimately to affecting your level 3 resources and above. Now, the effect on L3 staff strongly affects IT's ability to serve the business. And long-term staffing, training, and backfill ultimately trickles up to your level 3 staff, management, and leadership in IT. Now, L3 staff are pulled away from projects and other fun activities which could create separate staffing concerns by themselves. And I've been around environments where the IT manager or director are working service desk tickets, and none of us really want to get to that level. Next, we look at efficiency. Now, efficiency is either internal or external. So internally, how efficient is the service desk at ingesting, tracking, and closing tickets? Externally, how efficient is IT presenting itself to the business? Now, efficiency is measured in several ways, with customer satisfaction being key. And when we think of companies that handle customer service correctly, places like Apple come to mind. The younger generation of workers, as I mentioned earlier, your business is courting this generation, and they grew up with great customer service as a given. Remember, it came free with the device that they purchased. And without that level of customer service, not only you're not keeping good employees, but you're also increasing downtime to the organization, which, as I mentioned earlier, adds to the financial impact that IT has on the business. So how do you know that you are being efficient? You have to be able to properly categorize new tickets, track them through the process, and close them within an acceptable amount of time. And what is that acceptable amount of time? This is something that you must discuss with the business, and you must come to an agreement ahead of time. You cannot do this while something is broken. And we also must look at things like first contact resolution, and this is key in servicing your customers. Your customers want a resolution to their problem or an answer to their question the first time around. And I know when I have a technical issue, nothing frustrates me more than having to interrupt my day or my task to pick that issue back up. I would much rather get it resolved the first time that I approach it, the first call that I make, and your customers are approaching it the same way. Now, documentation and knowledge base articles are a great way to improve efficiency. When you identify trends, personal hotspots, or potential hotspots, and trouble points in the environment, your ability to quickly resolve and help reduce them is key. Now, once a resolution or change is made, you must update documentation, you must update knowledge base articles, and all of this will help reduce future troubleshooting time. Lastly, we must measure service, and customer surveys are a great way to do this. Now, my son plays baseball, and baseball is a game of failure. And one of the key things that I've worked with him on, and it's actually a sign hanging in the main office of the facility that he works out in, is that sometimes you win and sometimes you learn. If you don't hear about your failures, you simply can't fix them. And on the flip side, it's always great to hear about your wins too. And you need to use them to build confidence in not only your team, but also your service to the organization. So having these examples to both improve and help promote IT is key in the organization. Now finally, we have costs, and both staff and efficiency have costs associated with each. And when we take a look at staff, one of the reasons companies are looking to outsource is to reduce costs, and they usually start with staff costs first. So recruiting, this is initial training, ongoing training, continued education. All of these have associated costs when you're building your team. Replacing staff who leave can cause you to pay double for those expenses at times. And when you're backfilling or augmenting staff, when you have peak times or staff shortages, this, of course, increased costs as well. Now, this can be due, to sick time and vacation time as well, and understanding, can you take a loss of personnel, and do you have to pay more to have that position backfilled for that point of time? Now, staff costs may be the biggest expense, but they are not the only expense. From an efficiency standpoint, what would it take for your organization to get your service desk within the ITIL framework? Most organizations do not have the ability to log, categorize, prioritize, and record all phone calls. Limited availability to provide remote support and remote control options, escalating incidents and service requests, categorizing, that cannot be resolved within an agreed amount of time, and those limits. And you must be able to communicate with users to keep them informed of progress, impending changes, agreed upon outages, and other such notifications. Continuous improvement by constantly measuring our performance, ticket trending, and being able to adjust over time. This all takes time and effort to do correctly, and a lot of times that equates to additional costs. How good is your ticketing system? When we look at management tools, the ticketing system is the primary thing that we look at. But, so do you have a ticketing system that can provide you with all the tools that you need? Can you track changes in the environment? Can you escalate when SLAs are going to breach and identify when those SLAs are going to breach? You must provide a clear and precise data that the business can use, and you must be able to change the data that you're presenting as you continue to mature. You know, in other management tools that we have, you know, that your team will need, these may include things like document management, password management, antivirus and anti-malware software often are included in a service desk provider, with a service desk provider. And those can all be things that you can look at potentially offloading and moving away from your IT budget outside of service desk. So I want to thank everybody for joining. You know, as you start to look at, you know, the current pains that you're experiencing, if you're looking to build out or continue staffing a service desk, you know, look at, you know, whether it's staffing, efficiency, or costs. Please do not hesitate to reach out to your account manager. We'd love an opportunity to sit down and help build a 3-year TCO to help with any decisions to outsource your service desk, to be able to augment your IT team. But again, any questions, please do not hesitate to contact us. And thank you very much for joining. Have a great day.